Okay, one, I apologize for being kind of disheveled. I just haven't had the opportunity to properly trim things up today. Also, you can ignore what's going on back here. That's all just like eBay stuff for later, not a part of the video, but I know it looks out of place. I've said that I've kind of been scraping the bottom of the barrel, though really the bottom of the barrel has been scraped for a while, for ideas for videos, because I just haven't bought any new stuff lately. It's been a while. So an idea finally came to me, and of course, it kind of doesn't work with my current situation because I just haven't been buying toys. So it's a weird topic to cover right now, I know. But I still think it could be helpful. I've talked about this before. I don't know if I went into great detail about it or not, but I did have some pretty serious problems when it came to buying toys. And when I say that, I mean fiscal irresponsibility. Purchasing the toys became almost like a compulsion, and waiting for stuff to arrive, watching the tracking and all that just became part of the routine, and it felt weird when that wasn't happening. And that resulted in me spending a lot of money I shouldn't have been spending. And that's happened to other people, I'm sure, with other things. And so I wanted to share a few of the things, one primary rule that I kind of made for myself to try and help me get that under control. It didn't always work, but it helped sometimes at least. And that generalized rule is to just balance it out. The very basic idea was I can't buy a new toy until I've sold an old one. There's a lot of wiggle room in there, because for me specifically, it was kind of like, I can't just very well say, oh, I can buy this $200 third-party figure if I sell this $10 used deluxe, like that's not even, that's not a balance. That was just kind of the starting point, but I feel like it's something worth discussing and something worth considering if you yourself are having similar struggles with either the compulsion or the finances or both, like I was. Because if nothing else, it helps to kind of slow down that spontaneity when it comes to buying a new toy. You might still do it, but it'll at least get you to stop and think. And sometimes stopping and thinking can make a huge difference. So for me, I kind of would adapt this rule for myself as needed. Sometimes it would be I can't buy a new thing unless X amount of money is made through eBay sales to pay for said thing. That usually worked pretty well. Another thing was I wouldn't be allowed to, like I told myself, I couldn't make any purchases whatsoever after 10 p.m. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but there was a lot of stuff I would be like, in the evening, not sure what to do with myself, browsing shops and whatever, and see something that really caught my fancy, and then I would be like, oh, I'm going to get that. So by setting that no new purchases after 10 p.m. rule for myself, it made me have to stop and sleep on it. And that would, again, make a huge difference, because I'd wake up the next day and be like, why was I even interested in this most of the time? And then just toss the idea to the side, never think about it again, and I save that money by not buying the thing. Sometimes it was a balance of, I can't buy this thing until I've at least listed things. Sometimes, because, eBay is not a reliable place to make money, in the sense that you're not going to list something and there's no guarantee it's going to sell, let alone sell right away. So it's not like a one-to-one thing. But sometimes I would be like, okay, I've been thinking of selling this one thing and I want this other thing. I can get this other thing once I've taken photos and completed the listing and actually listed this other thing that I've been thinking of selling that's roughly the same price or more. And when money became much tighter, I made a rule for myself where I could only spend the money that I got through sales if it was like a small fraction of it. So if I wanted a $10 figure, I'd have to sell at least $50 worth of stuff first. So that way, yes, I'm buying myself a little treat, but the majority of the money I've made is still going to go into my bank account. And there are lots of ways you can kind of wiggle around with this idea, but I do think it really helps. I've applied a similar rule to the video game thing because it is so easy, especially with sales. I would say Steam sales, but I have a Mac, so there's only so much I can actually get on Steam or anywhere for the Mac. But There's like so many sales happening all the time. There's so many new games constantly coming out that like they all look so good, and there's so many games that I wanted to play before that are out. It's a mirror of toys in that regard, where there's just so much that you'll never get to experience, even if you were to try. Like there's just too much for one person to experience in one lifetime, and it just more keeps coming, and different versions keep coming, and it all is a big mess and kind of chaotic, but that's why we love it, right? But with the games, with all the sales going on, it's so easy to say, oh, I can buy like 5 games for $20. Let me do that. But now I'm stuck with 5 games. And whether or not they're all great, I don't want to have spent that money and never actually touch them. So the rule that I've instated for myself now is I have to beat a game first. Then I can buy another game. And again, there's wiggle room. There's certain things like I'm really interested in getting the Switch 2 version of Final Fantasy Rebirth. I think that's the second part of the remake. But the rule I've made for myself with this one in particular is I have to finish the Switch version of the remake first. Because I beat the remake a while back on PlayStation, but got the Switch version because playing it on the go is really cool. And so, my rule now is I have to finish this first, plus the Yuffie DLC expansion, whatever you want to call it, in order for me to be able to get that. And the benefit to that is by the time I finally get around to it, it might be on sale. And that's kind of all I have to say, really. It's just a trick that I've used to try, and again, I said this doesn't always work, but like it's something I use to try and help myself when it comes to just pumping the brakes a little bit when it comes to spending money on toys or video games or whatever. And I feel like this works for a lot of different things, but I do think, for some of us, definitely me, I'm sure there are other people out there who have this problem where it's like it's just so difficult sometimes to resist that urge to get the new thing. And you feel like, maybe you feel like you're missing out. But then lots of times, for me at least, I'm sure this happens with other people too, where you get the thing and then you're just kind of disappointed by it, or it doesn't impress you the way you thought, or you don't have any real excitement or connection to it. You just kind of got it because everyone else said it was great and you felt like you were missing out, and now you're just kind of stuck with this thing. If I want that figure, that one, I'm going to get that figure, and like that's cool. I'm not saying don't get it, but just stop and think, like, what could I potentially do to make up the cost? If you're in a similar situation that I was, where money, space, time, whatever is a factor. If it's not a big deal for you, then just get the thing. Treat yourself. Life is short and most of it sucks these days. But if you are struggling like I was, then I think this kind of stuff can help. And I'm curious to know, since I'm sure there are people watching this who've had at least occasionally similar things to deal with when it comes to buying toys or whatever else you might collect. Like, what are some of the tricks that you've done? Some tricks that you might be able to share down in the comments to let people know, like, hey, this is another thing you might be able to try. Sometimes, like, not everything's going to help every person. Different people's brains work differently, and I don't mean that in any kind of bad way. It's just not everyone thinks in the same way. Not all the same tricks or approaches to thinking about something are going to work the same for every person. So, what works for you? So whatever your tricks or thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and again, no idea what the next video is going to be. I'm going to try and keep it toy-centric.